used. The Richter scale is based on the amplitude of the largest seismic wave recorded and uses a logarithmic scale, where each whole number increase in magnitude represents a tenfold increase in wave amplitude and an increase of approximately 31 times the amount of energy released. So as you can imagine, the difference between a magnitude 7 on the Richter scale and a magnitude 8 is quite significant. Moment magnitude measures the total energy released by an earthquake and is partly calculated by multiplying the area of the fault's ruptured surface by the distance the earth moves along the fault. So it tends to be a more accurate representation of magnitude when describing earthquakes. So what are some of the effects of earthquakes? Well, depending on the magnitude, and even the soil conditions and the building type, damage can vary. We've seen collapsed buildings, elevated roadways, just completely reduced to ground level, pipes broken, power lines down. Earthquakes also contribute to liquefaction, and the soil composition and water content of the soil becomes a factor with liquefaction. Unconsolidated soils, like sedimentary soils, tend to experience more ground shaking than solid bedrock. Fires are another effect of earthquakes. In 1906, the San Francisco earthquake, more devastation, according to historical record, more devastation was experienced from the fires that broke out after that earthquake than the earthquake itself. And likewise with a 1923 earthquake in Tokyo. So fire can be a huge impact associated with earthquakes. Permanent displacement of the land surface, where you have landslides or mud flows or subsidence, where an area of earth just sinks, is one of the effects of earthquakes. And as well, tsunamis or seismic sea waves. Very briefly, tsunamis result from vertical displacement along a fault located on the ocean floor, or can be caused by a large landslide triggered by an earthquake. This is where the earthquake focus becomes important. When the focus of the earthquake occurs, when it's shallow, when it occurs near the surface of the earth, the vertical displacement of the water column can trigger a tsunami. If the focus of the earthquake is very deep, it may not initiate a tsunami. In the open ocean, tsunami heights can be less than a meter. And tsunamis tend to have very long wavelengths. When they travel over the ocean water, they travel very fast, at the speed of a jet plane. And there's an illustration in the next slide. As the tsunami approaches the shore, it interacts with the coastline, with the undersea features, and builds in height, as this illustrates. And as we know, a tsunami doesn't have to be even very deep to cause great destruction. next hazard that we're covering today. Landslide is a general term used to describe the downslope movement of soil, rock, and organic materials under the effects of gravity, and also the landform that results from such movement. Some of the things that can trigger a landslide are water, seismic activity, volcanic activity, and flooding. Human activities can also trigger landslides. For excavation, say for a building site, can contribute to landslides. The removal of vegetation, such as deforestation, can trigger landslides. Irrigation, mining, and even water leakage from utilities over time can trigger landslides. These tend to be very localized events that are often secondary to or triggered by other hazards such as floods, earthquakes, or volcanic activity. Landslides can range from something very small to something very significant, causing physical damage to buildings and infrastructure, environmental degradation, loss of life, and disruption or closure of major transportation routes. So as I mentioned, landslide is a general term. Here we can get more specific, and this helps us when we're doing our hazard profile. It's helpful to understand more specifically what type of landslide occurred. And how we can further describe these are by understanding the type of material and the type of movement that has occurred. So is it a rock fall, an earth slide, a debris flow? These are terms, no doubt, that you've heard. So it's important to understand, what kind of movement occurred and what kind of material was involved.